Hello, sports fan, and welcome to the Packs for Breakfast All-Star Team Outfield Edition for the 1987 Topps wood grain cards. Uh, Here we go. We've done the left side of the infield, right side of the infield. We've done pitchers, catchers, and now we're doing the outfield. Oh yeah, and there's two good ones, two really good ones. One that surprised me that it's like he wasn't as good as I thought he was, but he did have some good years. But three guys I haven't gotten to talk about, so I'm very excited to talk about him, especially Andre Dawson, who was one of my favorites. The Hawk was amazing when he played for the Cubs. He was amazing when he played for the Expos, but I wasn't an Expos fan, and I don't even know if I was watching baseball way back in. I mean, he played with Montreal until '86, so I guess, it's like he would have been there, but I don't know that I really paid that close attention to baseball until about '87 or '88. It was the third sport, because I followed football first, then it was basketball, and then I kind of came into baseball. And baseball I came into because I was. It's like there was nothing to watch on TV during the week, after I got home from school. Well, WGN and of course TBS had the Cubs and the Braves on. Well, the Braves were terrible back then, just terrible. The Cubs were starting to get good. Colorado did not have a major league team. We had the Denver Zephyrs at the time, and they usually weren't very good. So I kind of latched on to the Cubs and Harry Carey and Steve Stone, and I loved Wrigley Field. Still do. Still think Wrigley Field's one of the grand old ballparks. One of the best ones still to this day. It's iconic, and hopefully it never, ever gets torn down for any reason. Hopefully it is able to, stay standing for, as long as they want it to stay standing. We picked these outfielders, not the strongest outfield, I think, if you're looking defensively, because I don't think Jim Rice and Danny Tartabull were that good defensively, but Andre Dawson did have 8 Gold Gloves as an outfielder, so he was definitely great at fielding his position. He could hit his position too. But every Sunday morning at 6 a.m. Mountain Time, 8 a.m. Eastern Time, we open up a bunch of packs of cards, Chris and I, and you can watch us do that every single Sunday and see the preview to these teams before I talk about them a little bit more in depth. We're going to start from weakest to strongest, in my opinion. We'll start with Danny Tartabull. Danny Tartabull played 14 seasons, so he did have a long career. 273 career average, 262 home runs, 925 RBIs. Not the speediest guy in the world, but he just wasn't fast. It's like he only had 37 stolen bases in a 14-year career, so a little over 2 a year. He played with the Mariners from '84 to '86. In '87, he went to the Royals. But of course, these cards were '87. His last season was '86 with the Mariners. I remember Danny Tartabull with the Mariners more than I remember him anywhere else, because he was supposed to be very good. He was supposed to be an up-and-coming young talent. He was actually traded from Seattle to Kansas City for Bankhead, Kingery, and Shields. And the only reason that Kingery even rings a bell to me is because Kingery eventually became a Rocky. So Kingery became like a Rocky in '95, I think. So it's the only, when I saw the 3 names, I'm going, none of those 3 names really resonate with me, but Kingery does because he was a Rocky at one point. Danny Tartabull made the All-Star team just once. He played with the Kansas City Royals for 4 or 5 seasons. Then he went to the Yankees. The Yankees gave him kind of a beefy contract at the time, back in '92. He kind of did pretty well there. He had some seasons where he hit over 20 plus home runs, so he didn't do poorly there. He played with the A's, I think, for a season. Then he went to the White Sox and played there for a season, and then he finished his career in Philadelphia. In '95, he was traded to the A's for Ruben Sierra, a very good player. Tartabull ended his career with a 23.3 WAR. His best season was 1987 when he hit 309, 34 home runs, 101 RBIs. Tartabull started off as a second baseman, but realized he just wasn't quick enough laterally to do that. And they moved him into the outfield, where he did have a decently lengthy career and made some decent money. Then we moved to Jim Rice. Jim Rice, I was excited to get this card because Jim Rice is, if you're a Boston Red Sox fan from that era, you remember Jim Rice. It's like, I don't remember Jim Rice as much because his career kind of ended in '89. So his career was kind of on the downturn. But I remember hearing that it's like, oh, Rice is struggling. It's like, this is a great player, that he's kind of on the backside of his career. So I would hear stuff like that. But it's like Jim Rice, back watching baseball in the late 80s, he was talked about, as he used to be a really good player. And, I always kind of have had a soft spot for the Red Sox because I'm a Yankee hater. So I've always had a soft spot for the Red Sox. So Jim Rice, I was excited to see that we pulled his card so that we can talk about him a little bit right now. His career average, 298, almost 300, pretty good. He played all of his seasons with the Red Sox, 74 to 89. He had 2,452 career hits, 382 career home runs, 1,451 RBIs. He was an 8-time All-Star, and he was the AL MVP in 1978, which of course was also one of his better seasons. But his best season was actually 74, when he hit 46 home runs, 139 RBIs, and batted .315. He was voted into the Hall of Fame in 2009 on his 15th ballot, which I didn't think you got 15 ballots. Maybe, I don't know, Veterans Committee stuff, I don't know, 76.4% of the votes. So he barely got in because I think you need 75%, but he did get in. He is a Hall of Famer. He had 58 career stolen bases, so once again, not fast. It amazes me when you have outfielders that aren't fast. It's like, how do you cover ground? Well, that's right. They didn't win any gold gloves, Tartabull or Rice. It's like, he hit 39 home runs. He only had one season where he hit the 40-plus mark, where he hit his 46 home runs, and that was 74. But there were 3 times he did hit 39 home runs, in 77, 79, and 83. Ironically enough, not 78 when he was, the AL MVP. He had a 47.7 career WAR. If you're a Boston fan, I guarantee you, if you're a Boston fan from the 70s and 80s, you remember Jim Rice. And now we all get to know a little bit more about him. But now we're going to talk about my favorite player on this board, one of my top 5 favorites. We got to talk about Ryne Sandberg yesterday. Ryne Sandberg, all-time Cubby. Here's another one. He didn't play for the Cubs super long, but he did have 6 seasons. He did 87 to 92. He was a part of the team that went to the NLCS and got beat by the hated San Francisco Giants. He played most of his career in Montreal, where he played 76 to 86. Played with the Red Sox for a couple of years, 93 and 94, and played with the Florida Marlins in 95 and 96. Dawson was an 8-time All-Star. He was the NL MVP in 1987, his first year with the Cubs. So the year that these cards came out, you're looking at the card of the guy that would get the MVP that year. He had 8 gold gloves. He was the NL home run leader in 1987, and he was voted into the Hall of Fame in 2010 on the 9th ballot at 77.9%. Here's the thing. He batted .279 for his career. He had 2,774 career hits, 438 home runs, 1,591 RBIs, and it took 9 ballots to get this guy in. I mean, he was an 8-time All-Star, 8-time Gold Glover. He was an NL MVP, and it took 9 ballots. He also had 314 stolen bases. I mean, the dude was also fast. He played 21 years. He had some speed. He was a great glove. He was a great hitter. it's amazing to me that this guy was not, he had a 64.9 career WAR. 87 was his best season with 49 home runs, 137 RBIs. His batting averages were never super spectacular. But when you're talking about a power hitting outfielder, you'll take that 287. You will. If he can thump 49 home runs, you'll take it. But this is a guy, he didn't quite make it to the 500 home run mark, which probably would have gotten him in first or second ballot. But he had all the other credits, all the other stuff on the resume. It's like, check the receipts. He had the numbers. He should have been in on first, second, third ballot at the worst with all those numbers. Now, some people might remember him, and this is one of my favorite Andre Dawson moments, and it's kind of a negative one, but it made me laugh because I was watching this game when it happened. Andre Dawson was arguing balls and strikes with Joe West. If you know enough about baseball, you know that Joe West is a kind of a showboating umpire. He likes attention, whether it's negative or positive. Joe West likes attention and kind of prances around a little bit more than an umpire should. He draws way too much attention to himself. So him and Dawson kind of got in a little argument about balls and strikes. Dawson bumped him. So Dawson bumping him got him tossed by West. So as soon as Dawson gets tossed, he goes into the dugout and is still screaming at Joe West from the dugout and just starts throwing baseball bats out onto the field. Just takes like 5 or 6 bats at a time and just hucks them onto the field, and then goes back to yelling at Joe West, and then he'll huck 5 or 6 more bats and go back to challenging Joe West again. It's like, and it's just funny. It's like, so somebody's trying to get in between them, and it's like, so Dawson's walking away a little bit because he still wants to throw more bats, so he walks away to pretend like he's diffusing it, and then he takes another clump of bats and throws it out on the field again. It's like, and that happened on July 23rd, 1991. And it's still one of those moments that I love, because it's like, I'm not a fan of Joe West. I am a fan of Andre Dawson. That was his way to kind of just, of course it was in Wrigley, so the fans are going crazy for Dawson. So it was a fun moment, even though Dawson was pissed. It's still a memorable moment for me watching the game, getting to see it all happen live, watching it on WGN and watching Andre Dawson, one of the all-time favorites of mine. And it's like, it's like he was an 8-time All-Star. Glad he's in the Hall of Fame, deserves it. Andre Dawson, that's All-Star for now.